Dear Sydney Fringe artists, audiences, donors, partners and board, welcome to our non-program launch. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land I'm on today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. In the spirit of reconciliation, the Sydney Fringe extends that respect to the continuation of cultural, spiritual and educational practices of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. The Sydney Fringe. Tonight I'm joining you from Fringe HQ at the old 505 Theatre, within the historic Old Newtown School of Arts building. As I sit here alone in this empty stage, I'm comforted by generations of community who have in this building come together for over 100 years with the single purpose to create, participate and engage with cultural activity. The need for and sense of community has never been greater than these past 18 months. In 2020, when our world stopped, our sector was forced to face a reckoning unlike anything we were prepared for. The unity, strength, passion, dedication and the stubborn resilience of our independent artists is truly inspiring. In spite of the hardships, we're still here. And despite the futility of our environment, artists are still making work. Exceptional work. Tonight I was meant to launch our 2021 festival program and share that work with you. I was meant to launch a program of 370 productions. Here I was thinking we'd have a smaller festival this year. Work made by over 1,500 artists, and it was set to open in just 3 weeks. To instead be sitting here sharing a cancellation notice is beyond devastating. As an organisation, we have worked tirelessly over the past 12 months to reduce risk, put in place multiple plans, prepare for the worst, and ensure that all involved are looked after, should that worst-case scenario eventuate. These preparations have tested our mettle. They've bent our brains and identified our champions. But they haven't taken away the pain and disappointment of seeing a year's worth of work be snatched away only weeks from delivery. Nor have they eased the heartbreak of knowing that 370 productions will simply not be seen this year. That tens of thousands of hours of work will go unrecognised. That our city will not benefit from the cultural impact our festival provides or the economic benefit it brings. This year, more than ever, our artists and our city needed Sydney Fringe. Without our festival, thousands of artists will need to wait another year for an opportunity to present their work. For many Sydney Fringe artists, our September festival is the only opportunity they have each year to guarantee themselves a season, develop new works and reach new audiences. Each year we contribute over $11 million into the community via box office revenue and additional spend, income our artists and local businesses won't see for another year. Our sector and the broader arts and events industry have been working in a state of crisis for 18 months now. We have re-emerged, reimagined, pivoted to new formats and platforms, reinvested, redeveloped, redefined and held fast. This second outbreak has changed the landscape yet again. The Delta variant will require us as a community to once again remodel and restructure how we do business. With little hope of reopening until vaccine levels are reached. My thinking now is this. It's time for us all to stop. Take a pause. Fight the need to justify our existence. Stop clinging on in desperation, and as a friend texted me this week, be gentle with ourselves. There is no requirement for you to be online, to present your work in an inadequate format if it doesn't work for you. Or turn yourself inside out to keep going just to validate your practice or place in the world. You are important and vital to this city. Sydney is nothing without its creative community and you deserve a break. We're now fighting something completely out of our control. We're battle weary and we're hurt. Over the coming months and year ahead, we will need to unite together like never before, to work out how we're going to survive as a sector alongside this variant and in this new world. We will need your creative minds, amazing ideas and unwavering commitment. To reach the best outcomes, we need to be energised, passionate and prepared. So for now, let's just rest. Down the tools and prepare for what comes next. Tonight, instead of our program launch, we're going to present the work of 3 amazing artists who were scheduled to be part of the festival. We're going to have a chat with them now about their feelings, about what they think about the future, and we're just going to be together in this moment. So sit back, grab a drink, and I hope you enjoy the evening. So we kicked off the night with a pretty heavy message. We're all feeling a bit raw, and I'm sure we could use a laugh. So please join me in welcoming comedian, writer and producer AJ Lamarque to the stream. A kind-hearted comedian and artist who wants to remind us that we're all part of something bigger than ourselves.
Hello, everybody. I hope you're well at home, and thank you for that. It's a weird time. It's a very weird time. But as Kerri mentioned, you know, in times of tense intensity and stress, it's always good to have a laugh. At least that's how my manager reacted anyway when I asked for a pay rise during lockdown. So if she can do it, you can do it too. Today, actually, it was like we were discussing earlier. It's the first time I've led Redfern, where I live, since June of this year, which is a very long time. And I was actually quite anxious about coming out today. But then I remembered the first time I came out, which was a lot more difficult. So, you know, I had experience in this. I'm well versed, and today was a breeze. But it is quite difficult to face this situation and not know what's coming ahead. But in situations like this, you know, I like to have solace and hope in the fact that even if society crumbles, even if humankind is wiped off the face of the planet, that Persian rug store up the road will still be closing down. You know, nothing is constant in this universe except discount carpets. So there's always that to look forward to and rely on. I've got a few... There's no one here except a few people. And it's a little bit eerie as a comedian. We're not used to this. But I really appreciate the opportunity for being here. Anyway, it is... you know, as I get older, I've kind of been wishing that I have my youthful face again, I suppose, as many people do. And the irony of COVID is that after 2 years of wearing masks, my preteen acne is back. So, you know, be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it. It's a very disappointing time for all of us. But if you've liked what you've seen so far, my name is AJ Lamarque. You can find me on socials. If you like any artists or you're engaging with artists online, give them a like or a comment. You never know how it could, you know, inspire people during this difficult time, as Kerri mentioned earlier. But if you actually don't like anything I've said at the moment, my name is actually Gladys Berejiklian, and feel free to listen to my 11 a.m. updates and tell me the negative feedback there. Or go to newsouthwaleshealth.com.au. Really thank you for your support. But if you've been wondering and watching this live stream, kind of figuring out, oh, is he straight or is he gay? You're clearly in desperate need during lockdown, because clearly I am a homosexual. It's actually, you've got to pronounce it with the lisp, otherwise it's offensive to our people. Oh, I got a few good laughs in here. But no, I like to think of myself as an open-minded gay. You know, sometimes I go to Lowe's just to see how the other half lives. I have to say, though, I don't know how they're doing so well. It's a terrible costume shop. There's only 3 options. You're either a tradie, a school kid, or that inappropriate uncle who keeps on saying, everything is PC culture gone mad. It's not my style, but each to their own. I do get confused by heterosexual couples, though. I don't understand when they have a relationship, how they figure out which one is the Bert and which one is the Ernie of the relationship. Feel free to message me, because this seems a bit unnatural to me, but, you know, your preference is your preference. But if you've also been staring at me during this podcast, or live cast rather, and wondering why I look like your high school arts teacher had a child with Prince, it's because I'm actually mixed raced. Which essentially means that you can place me anywhere along the equator and I'll blend in. Yeah, like an ethnic Where's Wally? Where's Waleed, if you will. And to give you a bit of genealogy about my background. So my mum is white and English, which is actually a bit awkward because she looks more like my partner than me. So every time we go out for a family meal together, I just look like a foreign exchange student who's crashed in on their intimate moment. It's like, your country is so beautiful. I don't know what random European accent that was, but let's go with it. My dad is mixed race. He was born in the UK, raised in Malta for a while. His mum is Jamaican, Chinese, and Latina, and his dad is French, Indian, South African. I know. I did have to turn down the job of UN recently. I just had a few things going on. But if you're wondering, like, how does that all happen in one person? Colonialism is the fun answer to that. This is the intended result after all of those years, so I hope they're happy. I'm just playing. But I like to describe being mixed race, though, because it's not something that comes up too often in pop culture as being 2+ ethnicities or cultural backgrounds. And I like to explain that because I did a gig once pre-COVID, and I asked in the audience if anyone was mixed race, and this guy put up his hand, and I was like, oh, if you don't mind me asking, what is your background? And he just replied, Italian, in a very strong and stern way. And I was like, oh, bless you for wanting to support me, darling, but being Italian is just being Italian. And he was like, I know, I am just very proud. Oh, that bravado. I wish I had that level of confidence. I'll never have that level of confidence. Like, I could cure all world hunger, all world political issues, all disease, and I still would be less confident than that man in that small pub in Chippendale. And that's why we need live entertainment back again. So I can meet confident people like that. I think a story that goes to show how unconfident I am happened a few years ago, because I used to be a drag queen. I know I'm too butch. That's what you're thinking. Stop it. But I used to be a drag queen, and I was fairly passable as a female-looking person. Like, if you saw me on the street, you'd kind of look at me and be like, "Oh, Jessica Malboy's had a rough year," but enough to like pass. And it was one night, and I was getting into an Uber, and I jumped in the back, and he wasn't paying much attention. And then, like a couple of seconds into the journey, he looked in the mirror and he said, "Why are you not at home with your husband tonight?" Yes, that is the right reaction that you've just had. And in this moment of confusion, I was sitting there like, if he's not comfortable with a woman being out by herself, he's definitely not comfortable with a man pretending to be a woman out by himself. And I kind of sat there and I thought, a more confident person in that situation might have been like, that's a really terrible question to ask somebody. Can you pull over? I'm going to get another Uber or something like that. But in my kind of weakened, unconfident self, I just replied, "We've had an argument." And then the next 10 minutes of this journey go by, and I'm just trudging up this fake story about this life that I have, just so I didn't hurt the bigot's feelings. And we're kind of sitting there, and I'm like, my husband, he's always working late at the bank. His in-laws hate me. He's never there to look after our 2 kids, Judy and Dench. And I'm just flabbering on all of this stuff. And we get to the end of the cab ride, and I go to open the door, and the light turns on, and it kind of illuminates the facade of my cheap makeup. And he turns around and he's staring at me, and he looks very angry, and I'm kind of staring back at him like a queer in headlights. And he just replies, "If I was your husband, I'd stay back at the bank too." So I've never been read more in my life for my lack of confidence or my makeup skills, but thank God that period in my life is over. Thank you so much for having me. I'm going to actually pass back to Kerri.
Thanks, AJ. Come over and have a chat with me in a COVID-safe, distanced way.
A real human.
I know, isn't it weird?
In front of my very eyes.
How was that performing to nobody and yet everybody at the same time? It's the new world.
I think I probably the only person in Sydney who has a comedy gig at the moment,
Yeah.
so I'll take that. I'm technically the funniest person in Sydney's
You are
live
the
comedy
only
scene.
comedian in Sydney.
I'll accept that. I'll take that.
You were going to perform an incredible sounding show at Fringe, and in fact it was one of the ones that straight away I was like, because I go through the program and I pull out the things I want to talk about in press in the lead up, and yours was one of them because A, you had an amazing picture, and also it just sounded fantastic. Tell us about it, a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's called English Breakfast, and I kind of had the idea because I'm an avid tea fan. And English breakfast is generally my go-to. Sometimes I'll go for an Earl Grey, but sometimes not. I'll stick with an English breakfast mostly. But as a tea, I find it quite fascinating because it's a product of our colonial kind of era and the empires and all of that kind of dark parts of our history that's created something that's essentially an amalgamation of different leaves and histories to create this beverage. And myself as a mixed race individual with a very varied and diverse background, I kind of resonate with that idea of being a product of something that was way before my time, but having to kind of sit with it. And you've got this new facade, everybody knows you for this certain thing, and the show kind of explores that relationship between myself and the tea that I thoroughly enjoy.
And you drink tea.
And I drink tea.
What could go wrong?
I'm looking for a sponsor, so if Twinings is watching, free tea for everyone who comes.
Yes. Once we're all allowed to share beverages
Oh,
together.
gosh, yeah.
So what happens to that show now?
That's a very good question. Like as you mentioned, this is one of the few opportunities in Sydney that you get to put on a season, and you get to have that opportunity to test ideas and to do the work and to have a space to do that with engaged people willing to take chances on new work as well, which I think is an important factor. I think going into this period now is just looking at to really reassess where it is to start that journey. Where should I start that journey, whether it's next year and waiting for that time, or maybe small developments, small one-off shows. But it's a very ambiguous period, and I don't think there's a definite answer, and I think a lot of artists will be in the same boat.
And because I imagine for comedy as well, like a lot of people have been, when we've been talking about how do you pivot or, you know, art forms, lots of people have been saying to me, well, comedy, it's just one person and it's they rehearse on their own and then they can do it like this, you know, on Zoom. But you need people in a room, right? Like how do you develop a show without being able to test it in front of a live audience?
Totally, and I think that's one of the interesting things about comedy as an art form. It's casuality, and sometimes that goes very well towards making it a very popular thing. You know, if something happens in the news that afternoon, you can get up on a stage that evening and talk about it.
It's immediate.
It's immediate, and it responds to how people are feeling in that time, which is great for moments like this in terms of the stresses that people are feeling, to let that go. But when it comes to creating shows and putting on something like this, it becomes much more difficult because that longer process of testing jokes with live audiences doesn't happen anymore. And you kind of require that to create a solid 40 to 60 minute show that is going to be some of your best work, and where you can get to be more artistic, because when you're doing the live circuits in Sydney, you get 5-minute slots, 10-minute slots, 15 maybe, but you don't get a full run of a show to really go into your work and know what you as a comedian like and enjoy and really want to bring. So, you know, it's a bit difficult in that respect. So I'm hoping, you know, other mediums and digital mediums as well can really help people engage and find out what it is about themselves that they like in terms of their comedy, to bring it back when live shows begin.
And that's one of the amazing things about the Fringe comedy program at the Factory, because I think there was about 80 shows that they were going to present this year, which is small for them in September normally, but it's really about brand new concepts and work, isn't it? And so you would normally use Fringe comedy in September as an opportunity to test a new show and then work towards the major comedy festivals or anything else throughout the year.
Totally.
So without that opportunity, it kind of sets you back.
Oh, completely.
In that circuit, yeah.
And you know, we don't get an opportunity to do that outside of those festivals, and so, you know, Sydney Fringe is quite pivotal in that that creation and that ideation process, because you can't go to a pub really and get an audience, and it requires a lot more administration than there currently is within the comedy industry. Yeah.
Well, here's to getting through the next few months, and hopefully we can see your amazing tea show. Thank you so much for braving past the boundaries of Redfern and heading over here to do our stream tonight. I'm so grateful to have you here, and I'm so sorry that we don't get to see you in September.
No, thank you very much for having me, and obviously my condolences about the whole festival as well.
Thanks, AJ. Stay safe.
Will do.
Throughout this difficult time, our governments have rallied behind our sector in an unprecedented way. I'd like to thank Minister Fletcher and the Office of the Arts, Minister Harwin and the Office of Create New South Wales, the Lord Mayor Clover Moore and the City of Sydney, Mayor Darcy Byrne and the Inner West Council for their leadership and continued support of Sydney Fringe and our community. Here's a few messages of support from our government leaders.
Hello, I'm Paul Fletcher, Commonwealth Arts Minister, and I'm here to express my support for the Sydney Fringe Festival as they make the disappointing but unavoidable decision that the festival will not be proceeding at the time it was originally scheduled to go ahead as a consequence of the significant COVID outbreak presently in Sydney and therefore the lockdown that's been imposed by the New South Wales Government. While of course it's a disappointing decision, there was really no alternative, and I'm very confident that we'll see the Sydney Fringe Festival back bigger and better than ever before too long. The Morrison government has committed $370,000 to the Sydney Fringe Festival under our RISE program, and we want to see that money put to work. So we'll be in discussions with the Sydney Fringe Festival about when they think they might be able to come back. I'm sure that it won't be too long before there's better news, because as we look around we can see that the vaccine numbers are continuing to improve strongly every day, and of course the New South Wales Government, with support from the Australian Government, working very hard to contain and manage the current COVID outbreak. Obviously, for artists, performers who had been planning to be part of this year's Fringe, this is a disappointing outcome, but really an unavoidable one. But I would say let's hold on to that sense of hope and optimism, because I'm confident that before too long there'll be better news about what Sydney Fringe is able to do and what others are able to do as we get through this period.
Hi, I'm joining you from the traditional lands of the saltwater clans of the Broken Bay area. I just want to pay my respects to their elders past and present, and thank their extraordinary custodianship of this beautiful country. The Sydney Fringe Festival, which has been going since 2010, is without doubt New South Wales's largest independent arts festival. Each year the festival showcases art and artists. It provides professional development for cultural industries, and it aims to develop new, culturally diverse and young audiences. It's a highlight of Sydney's arts and cultural calendar, with a program that celebrates the city's vibrant and diverse culture. Today, we should be celebrating the launch of the 2021 program, and I'm deeply disappointed that that's not the case. I know that Kerri Glasscock, her team, and all of the artists and venues that were going to be involved in the festival are devastated about its cancellation, and for a second year too. COVID-19 has had a brutal impact on the sector. Of that there can be no doubt. As Arts Minister, and along with my other colleagues in the New South Wales Government, we've worked hard to make sure that there is the appropriate support to get the sector through the lockdown, and to keep artists and performers in jobs. And last year, of course, it was the $50 million Rescue and Restart package. This year, we've announced a further $75 million package to deal with the far more virulent Delta strain, which is causing a lot of problems during this lockdown. We're working closely to ensure that the Sydney Fringe organisation and all of the artists are supported despite, unfortunately, the cancellation of the festival. The funding will ensure that Sydney's independent artists are safeguarded and that the impacts of the festival's cancellation will be reduced on an already vulnerable community. The performing arts and festivals play a critical role in the arts here in our state, but they also have a role in stimulating the economy and creating jobs. And as we work through the latest outbreak, we want to ensure that organisations come through and are there on the other side of this pandemic. We want them to be able to survive and then be ready to thrive when it's safe for the restrictions to be lifted. So I have absolutely no doubt that Sydney Fringe will return in strength in 2022, bringing with it the immense cultural benefits and the excitement and the delight to its long-standing patrons and supporters. Thanks very much.
Hello, everyone. I'm really sorry to learn this week that this year's Sydney Fringe Festival is cancelled. It promised to be an exciting festival with 370 events in over 40 venues across the city of Sydney and the inner west. I especially feel for the 1,500 plus artists and performers who are planning to take part. This cancellation must be devastating for you after months of developing and rehearsing your shows. We know the arts and entertainment have suffered disproportionately over the course of this pandemic, and recovery will be challenging. I want to assure you that you have the city's support. Over the past 18 months, we have provided over $2.4 million in COVID-related grants to support the arts and culture. This is over and above our regular grants programs. We've also provided over $6.9 million in small business and CBD activation grants. Many creative enterprises, artists and performers have benefited from this program. 2 Mondays ago, Council asked the CEO to develop a further $4 million grants program to support the arts, business and the community in the recovery from COVID. We also want to make it easier for you to perform and present your work once it's safe for you to do so. I hope it won't be too long before you're doing what you do best, entertaining, delighting and challenging Sydney audiences over the coming months and in next year's Sydney Fringe Festival. In the meantime, stay positive, keep strong and safe and keep your spirits up and break a leg.
In acknowledgement of the vital importance Sydney's independent artists play in our cultural life and the devastating effects having to cancel this year's festival will have, we're working closely with Create New South Wales to provide additional support to eligible festival artists who are impacted by the cancellation. A huge thank you to Minister Harwin, Chris Keeley, Sue Proctor and the Create New South Wales team for this support. Last year, while the city was shut down, we initiated a project called Art in Isolation. Funded by the Inner West Council, this program supported the development of 11 new works for presentation at this year's festival. And it was continued into 2021 with a second round of funding to support a further 6 artists. Our next guest, Lucky Lartey, was one of our artists in development during 2020. They worked on a piece entitled Black Lux for this year's festival. Lucky's here to present an extract of that work tonight, so please welcome Lucky to the stream. So lucky. It's like I have this performance just for me. It's incredible. Thank you so much, Lucky. Come on over. Sorry, I'm going to ask you questions and you're going to be all puffed out.
All good, all good.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight and for performing in an empty theatre just for us and for everybody at home. I reckon it was over a year ago that you were here last year, just as we were coming out of lockdown.
Yeah, that was December last year.
Yeah. And you were one of our first Art in Isolation residents to come up into the space. It was so surreal and weird, where the city was still only just coming out, and you came up here to make work. Tell us about that process of what it meant to be able to create in a space through a paid residency development as well during that time.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. Yes, Sydney Fringe is a privilege to be able to perform, even though for empty chairs, but I know there are a lot of people watching, so and not all my friends have this opportunity, so I'm really grateful for that. I think last year, Art in Isolation, I think what really stood out for me was, and I think we haven't performed we've been locked down for 4 months or 3 months, so I just can't remember. And so to be able to do that just after lockdown, it was quite special for me. I said to be able to have the space for a week, paid, to be able to also collaborate with other artists. It was very special, you know, because it was a hard time, and all artists were sort of struggling and trying to find a way to get their art out there. So it was really special to have that.
And then being able to have the opportunity to take that development into the festival this year, to test out that work, that was going to be such an amazing thing. What happens to the work now that we can't have the festival this year? Will you continue working on it on your own, or does it need to be at a point now where it needs to be in front of people?
I'll keep working on it. I work on my own a lot, and so this is actually a good opportunity for me to sort of keep digging into things that I'm open to sort of explore by having had the time and opportunity. So yeah, we'll keep exploring the work, and hopefully we can bring it to Sydney Fringe sometime soon. Yeah, next year. And
for the dance community, I mean, so much of what you do is about physical contact with other colleagues and dancers in a space outside of your lounge room. How has it been for you this last 18 months and now going into another lockdown for your practice?
Yeah, this has been very hard for the art. I didn't think ever in my lifetime we will not be able to, have that privilege to sort of, have the physical contact. And you can see a lot of the work that we do, sort of, especially this work, is this is called physical contact, but also, it is about body relationships with space and all that. So it's not been easy, but I guess, they say you never know how tough you are until you are in a situation where you have to find a way to make it work. And we are artists. We are very innovative people. We sort of make the best out of nothing. And so I think we will keep pushing, and hopefully things will get back to normal. But it's not been easy for me, a lot of my friends, for our mental health. We are people that used to be very busy, meeting people, sharing our ideas. Yeah, very social people, and all of a sudden say, you cannot dance.
Yeah, no dancing allowed.
No dancing allowed. So
that's right. Oh, well, Lucky, I wish you all the best through this lockdown. I hope that your spirits stay high, and I really hope that we can see the full-length version of your work next year.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, and keep in touch. Stay tuned, and follow the work. And we got something special for you.
Great, thanks, Lucky.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Like our project Art in Isolation, there is so much more to Sydney Fringe than just our 30-day festival. Yes, it is definitely the biggest project we have and makes the most noise, but really our festival is the culmination and celebration of year-round hard work by the Sydney Fringe organisation. This in many ways is why it's so disappointing to not be able to present that to you this year. It is for us and our community the payoff of all those extra hours and sweat. Outside of festival time, we work with our partners to activate unused space like this one, building new open access performance spaces and driving regulatory reform for the sector. We are the state's leading advocacy voice for our independent artists, contributing to policy reform through all tiers of government. We run professional development programs, artist residencies, and so much more. I'd like to take this moment to thank the amazing Sydney Fringe team and our board of directors led by Chair Leslie Watson, who have worked so hard this year. As an organisation, we now face a difficult challenge of gearing up for 2022, having missed 2 years of market share and presentation. Like last year, we will do everything within our power to secure additional support for our artists who will now, once again, be in a tenuous position heading into next year's festival. As such, we'll be launching a fundraising campaign tonight that will run over the next few weeks, called We'll Fringe Again. And this will raise money to provide paid opportunities for Sydney Fringe artists next year. Please consider donating what you would have spent on a ticket this year. Every little bit helps, and you'll reap the benefits next year of being able to see incredibly wonderful locally made work. Our next guest is the formidable and wonderful Alice Terry. She's going to be taking us out for this evening, but we're going to have a little chat first. Hello, Alice.
Hi, Kerri.
Welcome to our non-program launch.
I know, it's magical.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Just
we
you
match.
and me. And we are matching.
Yeah. This is actually what I expected my crowds to be like, so this is fine.
Yeah. Playing to an empty house.
Yeah.
Alice, you are an amazing independent Sydney artist, and B, have worked with Fringe for years now.
Yeah.
You've played at lots of Fringe Ignites.
Yep.
You've done program
a few of these launches.
A few of these launches. It will just roll around.
I'm doing that again. Yeah, sure. How are we doing it though? Okay, sure.
What does it mean for you as an artist working at Sydney? Like, what does Sydney Fringe mean each year when it rolls around?
It's honestly it's a place where you can do kind of whatever you want, you know, within reason, but you can kind of express yourself in a way that a lot of commercial spaces won't allow you to do so. So obviously it is commercial in some ways, but it also gives you a bit more leniency with what you're going to produce. So for example, me and my drag character Jimmy Rigg has a bit more space at Fringe than say at other spaces.
Or your usual gigs that you would do.
Or just my usual
every week
whatever
or whatever.
I am. Yeah.
And that was the show you were going to be doing as part of our amazing Made in Sydney program.
I was going to turn from this into Jimmy Rigg live on stage.
Well, there's always next year.
There is next year, and I will absolutely be doing it next year. And I'll be good at it by then,
yeah,
hopefully.
You'll have 12 months to rehearse.
We've only been doing this for 17 years.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll be good by next year.
Live music has been hit pretty hard
Yep.
through the last 18 months. What's it been like for you and your colleagues just since this all started in March?
Yeah, I mean, other than just the disappointment, just continual disappointment. You know, we I don't know about other musicians, but I book something a few months in advance, or sometimes 6 months, 8 months, 9 months in advance, and I spend the next time obsessing over it. And it's basically my life. And so to have that gone, it takes away a part of yourself that you didn't even realise how important it was to you until it's gone. So it takes away that. I've been fortunate in terms of financially speaking. I was able to pivot a little casual job I did some shifts at here and there into a full-time role, and I'm now working full-time, and I don't really see a time where I won't kind of be in that role or be in a full-time position for a while.
As opposed to gigging full-time, which is what you used to do.
Or go on tour for 3 months and then come back and do a couple of shifts if I need them. So now it's full-time.
And why is it so important then for all of us to have a space like Fringe where independent voices are at the forefront for, you know, the only time of the year where they can be?
Because this is our whole life. This is our whole job. And we need a space to show our new works and present things that are maybe a little bit left of centre and really kind of hone in on our most creative selves. And that's how we get the best results, you know, when we have a bit of freedom.
Yes. freedom and just a space.
Yeah.
Just space. I mean, that's the
and
interesting
fabulous
thing.
people like yourself who are like, you want to do that? Sure, sounds great.
Just do whatever you want.
Yeah, it's like, you want to just twirl around on stage and sing one note for 4 hours? Sure, Alice, do your thing. I'm not going to do that, I really promise. But I could.
Will you sing us something, though?
I could sing a thing.
Would you sing us something to take us out for
I
the
would
evening?
love to.
We would love that.
Oh,
All
okay,
right.
cool.
All right, well, while you set up, I'll say my thank yous and do all of that. How about that? So, thank you. Thank you to all of you for spending your time with me and Sydney Fringe this evening. We will definitely get through this. We will come back stronger than before, and we will fringe again. A big thank you to everyone who made tonight possible. To, of course, AJ and Lucky and Alice. To our amazing festival manager, Kerri Pedersen, who's stage managing tonight, and to the incredible Doppler team who have brought you our COVID-safe live stream. They are the tech wizards, and we love them, and I look forward to working with them next year in a real-life environment. So please head to our website, make a donation to aid our recovery if you can afford to. Good night, stay safe, and I'll let Alice say good night.
I haven't done this in a couple of months. I forgot that I've got to plug it in.
Kisses that hang like a mid-July sky, a torturous longing that makes you feel high. We try to say goodbye. You know that I'll see you again. And seldom we speak like the sun and the moon. When you lay me down, oh, lovely and rude, you know just what you're doing to ensure I'll see you again. It's not easy to have a lover who always has to go home to another, and so we turn over our infinite jest. If I were a digger, I would bury the rest. You put me to the test. You know that I'll see you again. It's not easy to have a lover who always has to go home to another, as she tries to wind down at the start of my end. When the invites go out and you know I'll attend, 'cause I'm such a good friend. You know that I'll see you again. Now if all I can keep is this pale pink sky, now the verdict is in, and you go live your life, 'cause I can't say goodbye. In my mind I'll see you
Thank you so much to Kerri for having me. Thank you to everybody involved with Fringe Festival. Thank you, of course, to you watching at home. And of course, thank you to the sponsors. Hey, no, up. Not the trackies. Yeah. We wanted the Zoom. And we're back. Okay, all right. We'll see you next year.